courtesy of Project 1 Esports. I am BKXI, and in the commentary box with me today is my good friend Viper Z. Viper, how are you today?
Good, thank you, BK. How are you going?
I am doing absolutely superb. I forgot to do the Dragon Trail post-con myself. I kind of delayed it by a week, or I kind of delayed it too much, and then Katie jumped the gun and did it for me. So this is my first bit of Season 9 action to commentate, so I'm very, very excited to get into it. And what better than a prestigious Project 1 event like the 250 kilometers of Le Mans?
Oh, it's always fantastic to jump in and do commentary for an Enduro. These races, so many times, we just see them with action chock-a-blocked in. All 19 laps of Le Mans should be fantastic, and I'm really looking forward to see how the boys go.
Yeah, admittedly, I haven't watched the Dragon Trail stream back, so I don't know if KD's introed us through any of the driver changes, any of the driver movements. So we'll briefly dip into that as we go through the grid and admire some of the great liveries as well. Prying Stingray puts it on pole, one of the main championship favourites, arguably the favourite to challenge Lane this season, blocking Rex in that very vibrant green and blue. Satellite Alfa Romeo, sorry, Viper, almost spoke out of term there. The Satellite Racing Alfa Romeo in P2, orphan drop, third place. Seemingly, he had a strong week last week. Could this be a return to form? Curving Texas fourth in his return season to Kennedy Motorsport, and Botthod in fifth there. In the past, we've considered him, Mr. Le Mans, a three-time Enduro Cup winner, and I think that goes quite forgotten, Viper. So Botthod could be a massive threat today. Ridwan F1. He is subbing in for Roscoe today for President Engineering. He's not back full-time, but he is starting 6th today. The Stone Towel in 7th. Banana Cake Pie in 8th. Lane Everingham, shockingly down in 9th. Quite a poor qualifying for his standards. And Wiz94 in his Project 1 GT debut for Team Max Speed in 10th. Dynamite in 11th. He came 3rd here last time out. We could expect him to do some serious damage today. Jamo in 12th. Myself, BKXI in 13th. Quite the shocking qualifying result there for BK. TGT in 14th, and Savage Duck rounding off the field. And Viper, let's get straight into it.
Absolutely, I'm keen.
So 2, 3, 4, 5 red lights. And we are off. Stingray off to a blinder there. Blocky looked like he was struggling off the start there. Botthod already up into 3rd, looking to go around the outside of Orphan Drop and Curving Texas into turn 1. A beautiful start from the Season 2 World Drivers Champion. Oh, there's contact!
Oh, Botthod really lucky not to get collected by the field there. Ghosting as about 10 cars go flying through him. What a poor start for Mr. Le Mans. That is going to be a very, very tough start to the day for him.
Yeah, I think there might have been contact between him and Curving Texas, but seemingly no other drivers going through the field there. Stingray in the lead, Orphan Drop in 2nd, Curving Texas in 3rd, Ridwan in 4th. A horrendous start for Blocky. He has dropped down to 5th.
Yeah, not ideal for Blocky. Just not really hooking up that Alfa Romeo off the start. Seemingly maybe just caught out a little bit by the chaos up at the first chicane. But of course, it's a long race, this one. These guys don't need to get caught up in the first lap. They just need to settle into some rhythm. As Lane now making a move down the inside, up to 6th already.
Yeah, and it seems like the Stone Tower is going to give him a bit of a push to try and propel Lane up into P5. So the reigning two-time Project 1 GT Drivers Champion, knowing exactly what work needs to be done. And Viper, you look at who's next. After that Fuji finale, I'm not sure if we ever expected to see it again, but we could see Lane versus Ridwan in the immediate future. But Blocky does have a track limits penalty, so that could mean that the Stone Tower could lose grasp of Lane.
Oh, and you see Blocky there, I think just using his head as well, using the bump draft on Lane. I think he knows, look, he's already picked up a half-second penalty. It's a very, very long race. I can't stress that enough. And look at that in the background. That was 3 wide heading into the 2nd chicane there.
Yeah, it looks like Dynamite's been spat off quite a fair bit there, losing out a couple of places. So Dynamite getting quite unlucky, and he's picked up a time penalty as well for that. So he has been stitched up quite a fair bit.
Just super unnecessary in the early stages of this race. I think these guys really just need to get some calm about them at the moment and realise there's a long race to go. Strategy is going to be your best friend here. If you can just keep out of trouble and, importantly, stay off those curbs and watch those track limits, you're going to have a really, really good run here.
Yeah, exactly. As our driver... Oh, someone's off in the background there. I think that was TGT. recovering it well enough, but Bodhod is going to get back past, so that one has dropped TGT all the way to the rear of the field, and to the front of the field now, prying Stingray, half a second time penalty, so that could give Orphan Drop our race lead here.
Yeah, look, that's going to be the theme of the day, isn't it? When you got guys like Stingray already picking up the half-second penalties, it's a big question mark over the rest of the field. I mean, who else is going to be able to do it? You'll see now this gap between himself and Orphan Drop is going to absolutely marginise, and we'll probably see Orphan Drop take the lead here.
Yeah, and that FP Racing McLaren has a decent little straight line speed advantage over the Presland engineering car as well, so that is the last thing Stingray needed, because it looks like Orphan Drop, he's not going to get past, but now he is all over the rear of him.
Yeah, just a lot of pressure coming into the Dunlop curves here. There is one overtaking opportunity now before the end of the lap, and it looks like Orphan Drop's just going to think better of it and tuck in behind.
Yeah, same with Curving Texas and Ridwan F1 as well. That top four seemingly looking to break away. Lane in fifth on his own a little bit. He's probably going to hope that these four don't work together too well, so then he can try and latch onto the back for a tow. Otherwise, Lane could watch these four guys just drive off into the distance.
I think Lane as well. Look, he's got the experience about him. He knows what to do well at a Le Mans race. Sitting in fifth, that is a pretty solid start for him. You know, no penalties for him on the first lap. Tyres look decent. Fuel looks decent. You know, you're lap one of a 19-lap race. So I think it's important not to get caught up in the moment. The moment is 18 laps later.
Yeah, exactly, especially starting ninth as well. And look at that. He's had a fantastic final sector, and he's already caught up. So that top five really looking to break away here from the rest of the field. And you look at these five guys involved, there's 3 former series champions and 2 former runner-ups. So they're more than capable of doing it.
And very interestingly too, of the 5 cars there, there's actually 4 manufacturers, the only of which is missing is the Alfa Romeo. So if Blocky hadn't have dropped off the way he had, it'd be really cool to see all 5 manufacturers filling the top 5 spots. Nonetheless though, a very, very cool sight for our first Enduro this season.
Yeah, well, we did see the top 5 spots on the grid actually have one of each manufacturer, but obviously Blocky dropping down to 7th and Bodhot as well, getting caught up in that opening lap incident which dropped him down the field. Oh, yeah,
little fun fact there.
That was a fun fact. I probably should have pointed that one out on the grid walk, but that is fine. The top 5, not too much to report here. Everyone just towing each other along. This in 4th though. This is an absolute sight to see, isn't it?
It's bright. It's tell you what, when I designed those the bloody fluoro yellow Alfa Romeos, I thought I'd be the most bright, but that is definitely the most shiny of that Lexus. That is shimmering like a mofo.
Yeah, I'm not sure if everyone maybe has some PTSD in just looking at a chrome red car, because obviously he lost the championship last season to a chrome red car in Lane Everingham and Team Max Speed, but nonetheless we could see these two up for a mega scrap today. The top 3 looking really close. Again, none of them looking to make a move. I think all of these guys at this point are wise enough to consider, 250 kilometers, boys. Don't have to go too all out early on. Stingray again, though. Got that half-second penalty, and it looks like Orphan Drop and Curving Texas both looking to try and capitalize on it and try and make a move for the lead.
So it's another one of those points where Stingray's just got to almost calm himself down a little bit, take a little bit of an edge off. He doesn't need to be picking up these penalties and inviting the pressure. I think everyone was more than happy just to sit behind him.
Out wide as well.
And yep, that's just the kind of things he doesn't need to be doing right now. You know, you said it earlier on, he's a championship contender now. He's going to be in this thing right to the end, and mistakes like that, even though it's real early on, it's just unnecessary.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he is currently second in the championship, is Stingray, and we saw how consistent Ridwan and Lane were. Both of them rarely slipped up last season, and I mean, Stingray is ahead of Lane right now, but Stingray really has to try and tap in and try and find a new level of consistency that we haven't seen since season 3 when he challenged for that title.
No, it's been a while for sure since we've seen Stingray at an absolute consistency best. I think there isn't a single person in the grid or even in the community that would doubt Stingray is absolutely one of our quickest guys we know. He can take it to the absolute best. Ridwan is probably in the top 20 drivers in Australia, and Stingray doesn't have a problem facing him on a day-to-day basis. But if he can just build that consistency up, I could guarantee you Stingray wouldn't only be a force to be reckoned with in P1, he could take it Australia-wide.
He certainly could. And well, back on the topic of Ridwan, he is filling in for Present Engineering today. Not a full-time driver is Ridwan. If he's in a position like he is right now with a teammate and Orphan Drop ahead, does he try and help Orphan Drop get the best result possible?
I think you've got to prioritise the team that's going to be there all season, right? And I speak from experience, having done the Deep Forest round with Blocky, where I suffered mechanical issues late on in the race. And Blocky, of course, took the win in a Revo Satellite Racing 1-2. But you've always got to prioritise that car that's going to be in the race until the end, right? You don't want to take points away from a team driver.
Yeah, exactly. Especially when, as well, Orphan Drop, he enters this round 4th in the championship after seemingly returning the form in that feature race, getting 3rd place at Dragon Trail. So we could be seeing the Orphan Drop of old. We did see a small glimpse of it last season, and he has come out the blocks swinging so far. And the quality result really, again, showing that Jack might be back in full force.
I think it's been a long time since we've really seen Orphan Drop just be super comfortable in a car, and I still don't think we've seen the best of him in this Lexus yet. I think there's a lot more to come. He's seeking a lot of coaching at the moment, whether it be from Ridwan, whether it be from myself. He's really absolutely persistent right now, learning the ins and the outs of this car, and he already seems more comfortable than he did all season in the AMG.
Yeah, I think that in the case of Jack, I think that maybe he was just expecting his Season 7 form to carry over into Season 8, then got hit with a bit of a reality check, like, whoa, alright, something's not clicking here. And I think that number 8 team is just religiously just trying to recapture that form that almost won him a championship a season and a half ago.
Yeah, I tend to agree, and I think it can't be ignored either, that the fact that we've gone between GT Sport and GT7, and people might sit there and say it's a very similar game, it's very similar characteristics. They'd be right, but the nuances of each game are very different, and the way you get pace out of these cars has changed. So I think that really caught Jack out for just the first season, and I think we're starting to see him get to grips with it once again.
Yeah, exactly. But you know what? He's a very talented driver, he's Orphan Drop. And you know what? He is still running P2, right behind our Season 1 champion, Curving Texas, who... Did we ever expect to see it happen again? For the first time since Season 2, he's back at Kennedy Motorsport. A move that I think many within the Kennedy Motorsport management camp wanted. I think many within, Curving's little inner circle wanted. And for the longest time, it seemed like the move was never going to happen, but, they're reunited. For the first time since 2020.
I think it's definitely been a long time between drinks, and I was very, very fortunate to have Curving in the team for the late half of last season. He was an absolute bright spark, and it brought a lot of experience, a lot of speed to the team. Maybe not so much experience in terms of the game itself of GT7, but we definitely saw him bring some hard racecraft and just some really forward thinking to the team. And I expect that he's really going to lead Kennedy Motorsport forward here, and definitely push both yourself, BK, and I'm sorry, actually, Banana, thank you. Of course, Banana can't be forgotten either. Banana returning back to the full-time grid is another one who is just going to absolutely excel being in this trio of drivers.
Well, yeah, Kennedy Motorsport this season, they had their best team's championship result. They replicated their Season 7 result of 3rd, but they haven't seen the top 2 since they won the title back in Season 3. So what Kennedy Motorsport have done is they have signed the driver with the joint most races in Project 1 and BKXI, he's on board again. They've signed Curving Texas and Banana Cake Pie, who are 3rd and 4th in the all-time list of races completed in Project 1. So a very quick, a very experienced lineup, which no other team can boast to have, which could prove a very strong advantage, especially late on in the season.
Oh, 100%. I mean, you need a team with their heads screwed on once you get into the late stages, right? You're looking at fighting for a driver's championship. You're looking at fighting for a team's championship. You need people in your cars that are going to be focusing on reality. They're not going to go for the win when it's not necessarily the best thing for the team. They're going to work for the team. They're going to drive for each other, and they're really just going to knuckle down and get stuff done. Like exactly what Jack and Ridwan are doing right now. This is some real team driving from these two, and of course the team owner leading these cars in 2nd and 3rd right now. Awesome to see.
Yeah, and the fact as well, I mean, you look at the two drivers right behind them on track, Lane Evering and Prying Stingray, and when we saw last season, we saw glimpses of it at Dragon Trail as well. They're two very difficult drivers to hold back, so major props right now to the President Engineering boys. Stingray again running at 5th, BKXI in 6th with that half-second time penalty. The Stone Towel in 7th, Banana Pine 8th, Blocky's dropped all the way to 9th, and Dynamite rounds out your top 10.
Yeah, so Blocky just under a bit more pressure than he probably should be at this stage of the race. Maybe he's just copped a couple of track limits warnings from the in-game warning system. I thought he had a fair bit more pace in this car. He hasn't cracked a 59 yet in race trim, and you can see BK has done a 58.3, so that's some pretty solid pace. Actually, was that one of the satellite cars running wide again in the background? I can see BK there has picked up a penalty as well. There it was Dynamite, yeah, so Dynamite picking up the half-second.
Yeah, so satellite racing. I mean, Dynamite started 11th, I think it was. So he has moved forward. Blocky though, a bit of a fall from grace. He did start in P2, and you know the Alfa Romeo is the fastest car in the straight line. So maybe if he can find the rhythm, maybe he needs to pass Banana, and Banana can try and push him a lot.
So it's an interesting car in the way that it makes its pace. It's incredibly good out of the corners. It's got great traction. It can really plant out, and its launches are actually quite good. You see, it doesn't exactly get swallowed up in the field at the start, as Blocky there playing the smart game as well with a bit of a train here. But yeah, I think drag-wise, it's not too bad either. Great top speed on this thing, but in the mid-pace, it just doesn't really pull like any of the other cars does. It really bogs down before it gets up into those top speed ranges.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how Blocky, Dynamite and TGT tackle that one, not only tonight, but for the rest of the season as well. Jamo in 11th, but on 12th, both of them having a half-second time penalty each, so they will be slowed down a little bit later in the lap. Wiz in 13th as well, on debut, missed last week, but he's here now for Team Max Speed. Savage Duck in his first full-time campaign in 14th, had a few impressive substitute appearances last season, and TGT as well, a brand new driver in the community, in the league. He is currently rounding off the field in 15th for Satellite Racing. But back at the front, it is still Curving Texas, who leads from Orphan Drop, who leads from Ridwan.
Yeah, not a whole lot going on at the front at the moment, and look, I think it's about time we start considering strategy here. We're well into halfway through this stint, as those guys have a little bit of a wiggle there, but it's the big question here of whether you go for a 2-stop or a 3-stop. And so the 2-stop would normally entail a 7-lap stint paired up with 2 6-lap stints. It's a little bit more strenuous on your fuel tank, and if I'm being honest, it's something that Curving Texas is particularly known for. He's a very, very thirsty boy and enjoys going through a tank of fuel. But the 3-stop, obviously, much more hard out, and it's something that we actually saw Satellite try last season at Daytona with Curving himself being part of that squad. Somewhat unsuccessfully, it might be added.
Well, it's something as well that Kennedy Motorsport attempted last season here at Le Mans, where BK and Dynamite in those Supras, they worked together. Dynamite was able to actually get third place because him and BK were the two fastest cars on track the entire time, and Dynamite was actually able to just drive consistently enough to make up that pit stop deficit they had to everybody else. So the 3-stop can work, on other drivers that are around a similar pace, because we did see Ridwan and Lane last season absolutely run away with it doing one less stop. So if you're Ridwan or Lane, surely you just try to replicate last season's strategy because it worked.
I tend to agree with you there. I'm not perfectly up to scratch on what our pit loss times are for Le Mans, but I think if you just don't mind, if you go through with the fuel numbers at the moment going from the front, I believe Curving Texas actually has a lot less fuel than these guys at the moment.
Yeah, it seems to be. Him and Stingray look like to be committing to the 3-stop today. Lane and the President Engineering boys are looking to commit to the 2 by the looks of it.
And look, if my name is Curving Texas or Prying Stingray right now, I'd be seriously worried about those Lexi, if I do so use the plural. That fuel save is fantastic from both Jack and Ridwan, and sitting in second and third comfortably in the slipstream of that BMW. I think it's pretty safe to say right now that 3-stop has not worked for the first stint. Not to say that it can't come back, because we know the pace that those two gentlemen have, but this is the exact start that these two Lexuses wanted to see.
Yeah, exactly. And Lane Everingham as well, just sitting right behind all three of these two stoppers. I think they know not to make a move for the lead right now because you can save more fuel in someone's slipstream instead of leading the pack. And I think with Curving Texas seemingly committing to this extra pit stop, he's just got to try and get out. He's got to try and break the toe somehow. That is what you've got to do if you're Curving Texas, but it's going to be so difficult.
And it's a very difficult mental game too, just really committing to breaking that toe. You've got to push the car, I beg your pardon, you've got to push it so hard and just absolutely... You've got to go goblin mode to try and break away from these guys, because obviously they're saving fuel, but they're going to burn a little bit of fuel if they think you're going to get away. And it's a problem we had at Daytona in the early stints, because there was so much dicing. Myself and Blocky, planning to get away from the field, really struggled to build that air gap, and then eventually once I did manage to get past Stingray, I never looked back, but we just couldn't really claw in the time after that first stint. So the damage can be done in the first stint for the 3-stop, and what we might be seeing right now for Curving Texas is the writing on the wall. It's very, very early days, and there's a lot of mistakes and a lot of the race to go, but this isn't particularly good signs for the Kennedy Motorsport driver.
It isn't, no. What could be a slight sigh of relief is the fact that Orphan Drop in second does have that half-second time penalty to serve. The problem with that is that they're all trying to overtake him right now. So Jack obviously realising that, he's going to lose time to Tex. Why not try and breeze past him with the help of Ridwan? And Tex has dropped the fourth just like that.
Oh, God, that was strength in numbers, wasn't it? There's definitely some contact there coming into Indianapolis, so that was very messy. Hope none of the cars picked up any damage off that. But yeah, we will see Orphan Drop take that half-second penalty now on the exit of Arnage.
So Ridwan's going to take the lead here, so for the first time since Fuji, Ridwan leads a race. So it took him 5 laps to get there, and Lane Everingham's actually going to try and breeze past as well. I didn't think we'd be seeing these two battle on track this soon, since Ridwan's departure from the series full-time. But here we are, coming into the Porsche curves. Ridwan on the inside, Lane on the outside. And it looks like Lane's going to tuck in behind. Probably the smartest move here.
I think secretly Ridwan's really enjoying this. So I know full well he was a little bit dirty at himself for how he drove at Fuji, and knows full well he shouldn't have lost that championship. I mean, I think both those gentlemen had one hand on the trophy at some point in the season, but at the end of the day, Lane ended victorious and had a fantastic season. Not to discredit Ridwan's season, it was absolutely fantastic. But I think when he comes in with these wildcard appearances, he does have a point to prove. As Curving Texas then peels in.
Follows up.
There you go. So the start of the 3-stop for these men, and this is going to be very, very interesting. And prying Stingray, that's something we completely missed on the medium tyre.
And same with the Stone Towel. So FP Racing, seemingly wanting to get the medium stint out the way early. This is probably the best time to do it because, everybody's bunched up. It is the one stint that's during the day. One thing you'll see on this post-race broadcast, and it is something unfortunate, I keep having these issues at Le Mans where my time progression is out of sync with everybody else's.
So that is a little bit strange.
So the night time for me comes about 3 or 4 laps later than everybody else. Which you think
interesting?
Which you think, that could be a slight advantage for you. Well, no, because by the end of the race, it's daytime for them, and it's still night, and it's still pitch black for me. So I suppose it does even out in that sense. But the time progression for what we're seeing on screen is going to be slightly off to what everyone else on track is seeing. Well, except for myself, because this is what I saw. Everyone else saw something completely different. We didn't have that issue at Daytona last season, but we only had it at Le Mans, so that is something interesting there. There's something interesting to see. Look at this gap that Ridwan's built out to Lane Everingham.
And importantly too, these guys are all still on the 2-stop, so any gap here that you're seeing is going to be the gap that these guys will carry into the pit stop. So Lane knows exactly what the importance is of staying here, and he's purple as well, so he's up on that time from BK and doing what he needs to do to stay with Ridwan. Jack won't make it easy for him either. I'm not sure Jack would actually want to be pushing Lane right now, but we'll see what the number 8 does.
He's going to try pass. Yeah, that's the right call. You want to try and keep, this is protecting his own car.
Well, absolutely it is, as he sweeps ahead now, and into second place goes Orphan Drop. So suddenly at the drop of a hat, this looks very, very good for the Breslin boys. Not perhaps the Felix Breslin boy, who I believe is actually watching right now.
Not of the Felix variety.
No, absolutely not. I have just noticed as well, both Prezzo and Jamo dropping in to say hello. So, g'day, boys. Hope you're having a swell night. In the background there, look how many people are peeled in. Blocky Rex up to P4.
Yeah, Botod in 5th as well. Let's run through the field. So Botod's in 5th, Wiz in 6th, yet the pit. Same with Savage Duck and TGT. So Prying Stingray leads the 3 stoppers. Curving Texas, he's lost a bit of time, hasn't he? But you look at the fuel, Texas put more in, which has allowed the Stone Towel on the back of him, so maybe those two can work together. Now here in the stint, Dynamite is in 12th with BK right behind. And if you remember back to Le Mans last season, these two worked together quite well and they were teammates. They might not be as friendly this time, but these two know that they can work together and get good results here at Le Mans. So maybe they have to rekindle the old partnership, at least for the time being. Banana in 14th, and legend of the game, Jamo 244, rounds off the field.
You know, I'm going to put it out there real early. I think those 4 cars, whether it was yourself, Dynamite, Prezzo and Tex, I think it was back there, they've probably found themselves in a really, really good spot. If I'm right about what I'm thinking and those cars are all committed to a 3-stop, they're going to be able to really push each other on and actually find some serious time on the leaders right now. The undercut right now will be so powerful. I mean, look at the times that Ridwan and Jack are doing right now. 4-minute flat for Jack last time out. There's about 2 seconds in it compared to what he was doing there.
There was a serve penalty in that one, so that is a slight asterisk next to it. But yeah,
no, it is a major disparity though. The pace that the guys back behind Stingray will be doing right now will be enough to vault them into the lead when these guys pit. But of course, it's all about where they are in 13 laps time. That's what matters.
Yeah, exactly right. And one thing I can confirm as well, I mean, we could go back and look at the fuel numbers. I can confirm that the Kennedy Motorsport drivers of Curving Texas and BKXI are, at least for now, as Orphan drops, that's the fastest lap of the race. The Kennedy Motorsport boys are committing to full fueling at those pit stops to then try and gain time again back towards the final stint because they won't have to put as much fuel in for that final stop. So they're sacrificing a little bit of time now to try and regain it later in the pit lane.
Tell you what, he absolutely told me, didn't he? Here I was saying that the undercut was going to be massively powerful, which it absolutely will be. But then Jack goes and sets a 58.1. That is a very, very nice lap time there.
It's like a reverse commentator's curse right there.
More or less, yeah. He's going to take a little bit of pride in that one. I hope he doesn't see it.
Yeah, as our Savage Duck coming into the pits now. And there's no other close battles except for this front 3. Well, except for the undercutting guys. So we'll keep an eye on the front 3 again. We'll keep talking about these boys. And if it was a battle between these 3 for the race win, if it is Ridwan leading Jack, does Jack get the win here? Would Jack get the win if it came down to these 2 present engineering boys?
Look, I think Ridwan's clever enough that he would pull over and let him by. For me, it's a no-brainer, right? Ridwan's not fighting for anything. He's not in this championship for a long period of time, unless he knows something that I don't. But it just feels like it would be the wrong thing to do to take it away from someone who really does need the points. If I were Ridwan, not right now, I'd keep on leading this race, keep on willing Jack on, but, you know, with maybe 2-3 laps to go, even on the final lap if he wants to, slip in behind, let Jack take that lead, let him be the team owner that he is, and just start playing rear gunner.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, Orphan Drop, definitely one to keep an eye on. And Stingray right now, he is still on his own. Prezzo and Tex yet to catch. Prezzo has a half-second penalty, so maybe their working together hasn't proven to be as effective as BK and Dynamite. That gap does look like it's come down a little bit.
Yeah, it's just more penalties that really not necessary. I think, look, they're very, very easy to pick up, but at this point, you kind of need to pick a driver out of these 4 guys of Prezzo, Tex, BK and Dynamite. You've got to pick one driver at this stage that can lead those 4 on and really push them all the way. These could be the cars fighting for the top 5 at the moment. I think if we're honest, the top three is more or less sealed. I think the top three that we see right now is probably the top three we're going to have at the end of the race. But these guys are probably going to fill in those final spots for the top five. If you pick one driver right now who can lead these guys to the promised land, they're going to do a world better than what they'll do if you pick someone who's going to be copping penalties. And that's nothing against Prezzo. We know he's an absolutely world-class driver. But at Le Mans, it can be very, very difficult. As these two here scrapping coming into Mulsanne corner. And that's, I believe, BK holding position over Dynamite. But yeah, they've just really got to be clever about who they're electing to punch the hole in the air.
Yeah, well, this penalty for Prezzo could actually play in favour to BK, because Prezzo could I believe this will slot the stone towel in between those two BMWs, which could see Dynamite left in the dust because he has a penalty of his own to serve. But we could be seeing Tex lead the stone towel, lead BKXI. And then those three could work together to try and make a charge, at least towards Stingray, and then maybe link up with him.
And we've seen as well, Stingray isn't bulletproof, he's super quick, but he's just copping a lot of penalties. He had one not long ago as well, which definitely will slow his charge. But look, we'll see here exactly where Prezzo will end up. Look, even if he ends up on the back of this pack, he can probably just push them all on. So we've seen before the pace from Tex as the top three now peeling in.
So yeah, Stingray is going to be the man to watch, as Tex has taken 9th, Prezzo 10th, BK 11th as predicted. Dynamite slightly off, but the Alfa Romeo could have enough kick in it to catch back up. But this is the man of the hour, prying Stingray. So one thing I've noticed as well, it's seemingly as close to an even split as you can get. 7 guys on the 2-stop, 8 guys on the 3-stop. So as close as we can get to an even split. Obviously, with an odd number of drivers, you can't have a perfectly even split. But it'll be interesting to see, where does Stingray come out in comparison to Ridwan?
Oh, I think the undercut's definitely got to be strong enough, right? It's a bit of a quicker refuel rate this season. That's important to note. But I don't think it's quite going to be enough. So the Stingray here coming through. Fastest lap of the race for Stingray. There's that undercut I was talking about. He's going to go breezing by pit exit. And we're just going to see the nose of Ridwan.
There's Ridwan there. What about the chasing pack? Oh, curving's joined around lane. And BK's shot off the inside as well. So that top three really getting split up here. Ridwan rejoining in 2nd, Orphan dropping 3rd, Lane Everingham in 7th. And that top 8. That top 8 is almost separated by about 4 or 5 seconds. That is extremely dangerous.
Now, it's exactly what you want for Stingray. If we go through the field one more time, Stingray here has absolutely caught the whole shot. He's the only 3-stopper that's gotten away from these guys, and he needs to push like hell right now. And I can guarantee you we don't need to tell him twice. Ridwan, best of the 2-stoppers. This is looking better and better for Ridwan and Jack. But all these guys in behind, you know, this is kind of perfect because I can absolutely see this where they've just pushed the guys on. If you get curving or Prezzo, he's pushing it through. This is great from Prezzo. Absolutely heads up driving, as Tex here jumping on the brakes into that first chicane. Very, very heads up driving there from Prezzo and Tex.
Yeah, exactly. They've just dropped. Well, they've dropped Orphan drop, and now, well, that half second's not going to help from the stone towel. But they really needed to push now to try and bridge that gap into Ridwan. I mean, Tex can still do it with the help from Orphan drop, but it's not the driver he needed to help him.
No, and we've seen Tex as well. If he's committing to that 2-stop, which
BK
no, he wasn't. Sorry, Tex was on the 3.
But backs out of it.
Yeah, so this just gets awkward now. These guys all trying. They've got a different philosophy of how they're trying to run this race. As Prezzo gets very sideways there in the background. But the 2-stoppers and the 3-stoppers here, they almost don't want to work together, right? The 3-stoppers need to be running away from the 2-stoppers just to try and save their race. Like, this is just getting very awkward now in this pack. I said that they might be helping each other. This is not going to be any sort of help at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, we saw BK there getting a bit of a look in. I think he is trying to link up with the 5 and the 9 car, realising the position he's in. It's a 7-car train. And that's not going to help BK either. So that's 2 of the 3-stoppers. They're going to get sent further down the pack, which is really going to help Jack and Lane, actually, because it could be a couple of free positions there that they don't actually have to fight for.
Yeah, very true. And remember, extra positions right now means extra fuel saving. So Anytime you can get a little bit of track position, as long as you keep a car in front of you, it's just going to do wonders for your fuel save. So if these guys are smart about it, honestly, dropping to the back with a bit of a penalty won't be the worst hurt in the world. But I think, honestly, having Tex at the front of that pack right now is probably the best decision they could be making.
Yeah, as you see those penalised drivers moving over to the side. BK dropping down to 8th. That looks like the Stone Tower is dropping down to P6, maybe P7. Dynamite looks to be getting a nice little run on him. So those two guys are going to slot in towards the back, meaning that it's a 3-stopper, leading 3 2-stoppers, and then the rest of the 3-stoppers are at the back of the pack, which does put Curving Texas in a very, very awkward position because the 3 guys he needs to help him are behind 3 guys who he needs to try and get away from.
Yeah, it's too true, right? It's just really awkward for these guys right now. They need to be getting away, but they need to use each other to keep the pace. Dynamite has kind of factored himself in. We saw it midway through. He was just looking a little bit out of position. Seems to have really found to grips with this Alfa Romeo kind of midway through the race. And I think his experience around Le Mans definitely coming into play. A 59.1 last time out. He's not losing too much time compared to the guys around him right now. He might just bring himself into play.
Yeah, exactly. And we're talking about before the straight line the slight straight line advantage the Alfa Romeo has over the rest of the field. We could see that being utilised as BKXI pushing a little bit too hard despite being at the back of the pack, and that move there I think almost could be game over for the 11 today. Blocky Rex struggling quite a fair bit, isn't he? But he is on that 2-stop, so he is still definitely a factor for a top 5 perhaps.
Yeah, look, the 2-stopper can only keep you in so far. Blocky, he did find his way into the 59, so Blocky as well, coming to grips with the car eventually. He might jump a couple of the 3-stoppers, but towards the end of the race, if he doesn't really have the gap on them, he's not going to be able to defend them when they've got the fresh tyres coming at him late on.
Yeah, and then Banana Cake Pie on the 3-stop rounding out the top 10. Bodhod in 11th, he is also on the 2-stop. But again, further behind than what Blocky is, so could potentially be very, very out of sync. Might not be on for a top 5. Jamo in 12th with a half-second penalty. Wiz in P13 with a 1-second penalty. Savage Duck in 14th. TGT right behind him, rounding out the field. It is nice to see a few new faces on the grid, isn't it, Viper?
It's always good. We like to see a good influx of guys come in. Especially because we've kind of been running the same tight-knit community for so long that really expanding P1, as TGT picks up a half-second there, but expanding the P1 community and bringing in these guys through whether it's our ruse connections or the stuff that we're doing in F1, it's just really great to see a couple of new faces and guys that hopefully we can cement into the grid for a couple seasons to come.
Yeah, exactly. One thing we missed. No, Curving Texas has always been in P2, but you look at Tex and Ridwan, they have built a nice little gap actually.
They have, and Ridwan as well has gotten very smart to the fact that Tex is going to be pushing really hard right now. The 3-stop driver, he understands the mission. As there we go, that's Blocky, not Blocky, that's Dynamite, the better version of Blocky, in P4 at the moment. And he is just trying to stay out of the trouble there. Prezzo diving deep on his brother as Dynamite setting some very, very nice sectors right now. Of course, that Alfa Romeo, an absolute weapon in a straight line. And he might be able to catch up to Ridwan and Tex if he keeps his head down right now.
Yeah, you'll notice as well, Dynamite and Prezzo, they've gained 2 places each. They've passed Orphan Drop, they've passed Lane Everingham. That is exactly what they needed to do.
So it's just, yeah, it's good at the moment. I think these guys are just starting to sort themselves out. They're realising now who they need to have at the front and who can just kind of trail at the back. I think any penalties right now, if you see your drivers getting penalties, they need to sort themselves towards the back. Just find their own groove. As we see BK back in 8th, that's probably where he might be able to sort himself out.
Well, he has a penalty already that has to be served, so he is going to lose a bit of traction there. You can already see it. 6th, 7th, look at the gap, look at the gap, look at the gap. And he wasn't even on camera. He's that far behind. Yeah. That BMW lost a lot of momentum there. And honestly, that could be the writing on the wall with him trying to stay competitive with Dynamite, with Prezzo, and with his own teammate in Curving Texas.
Oh, I don't think that's just the writing on the wall, is it? That's kind of the piece of cake itself, right? That's losing slipstream around here, especially down that Mulsanne straight. You are losing seconds a lap. And I think this middle stint has just become that much harder for BK, and he'd need to really bank on some chaos if he wants a good result today.
Yeah, exactly. And Dynamite, you look at the gap he's been able to... look at the gap he's been able to build. This is actually his in-lap. So he's pushed really hard. For good reason. Trying to finesse his way through the field. And now, he's going to try and undercut Tex and the Stone Towel. So we'll see how that one works out for him. But look at the gap now. The gap's formed again between Tex and Ridwan and everyone behind. So this hasn't done the Stone Towel too many favours unless he can gain in this first sector, which it looks like he's actually done quite well.
Look, I won't lie to you, BK. I'm really, really confused about what Dynamite's on here. I mean, he's taken himself right out of sync compared to these drivers, so he's not getting tow. He's not really getting any benefit from being around anyone. He's kind of just running a race on his own at the moment. It's not like he's got amazing pace. You can see the pace that Prezzo's got right now, a 57 flat in tow. I can tell you right now, Prezzo is not the quickest car on track right now, but being in this pack is so beneficial. I'm not sure what Dynamite's thinking taking himself out of it.
Yeah, look at that. He's gone for the move on Ridwan as well. And you know what? I think last season that would have been a sight that we weren't going to see too often because they were teammates. But Prezzo does not care today. And this is good for Tex because now a fellow driver on that 3-stop is right behind him.
That's really going to help him going forward. I think it's important to stay around the drivers that are on your strategy. You kind of just need to work together going forward to try and beat it. You said it early on, right? There's a pretty even split right now between the 2-stoppers and the 3-stoppers. And if we see any of the 3s and the 2s really getting into each other, you're just going to partner up with your other 3-stoppers or your other 2-stoppers.
Yeah, and this is the first time since this train formed that they've kind of, merged. Like, all the 3-stoppers are in one spot, all the 2-stoppers are in the other. But the crucial bit is, Ridwan has a nice gap to Jack. The question is Jack trying to catch back up to Ridwan, or is he trying to hold off lane?
Oh, look, if you're Jack right now, you probably just go for whatever's going to keep you up the field. I mean, both of these boys are on 2-stops, so it's not like they're going to be pushing much harder than one another. And then they've got BK, who's slipped so far back right now. It's like their chance is just kind of dwindling. I did say it early on, I still think that Ridwan, Jack and Lane are going to be your top 3. In what order, I could not tell you right now, but these boys are definitely in the best shape to take that 2-stop all the way. The 3-stoppers, I mean, look how far up the road Stingray is right now. He's probably looking the absolute best to try and take something to the leaders. Funny I say that, he is the leader right now. But yeah, that void between the 2 and the 3 is just going to be very, very interesting to figure out.
Yeah, it will be very interesting to see because if Stingray can keep up this really fast pace, he might have a chance at cracking that top 3. I mean, we saw last season Ridwan and Lane on that 2-stop. They were in a league of their own, but the difference is there's someone else on the same strategy keeping up with them.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. These boys are just keeping each other on their toes right now, and like you said, Stingray's just got to be pushing himself on right now. But there's so many cars further back that have kind of just played themselves out of this for one reason or another. Obviously, this top 6 is all still with a shot. I think these are definitely your key contenders right now. Even BK in 7th is still kind of in or about this. Blocky behind, I think he was on a 2-stop.
He is on the 2.
So yeah, Blocky's still looking pretty good to try and salvage something with this race. I think he used his mediums first. I may have been mistaken.
I think he used the softs first. I think he might be saving the mediums for the second stint. And for those 2, and for these 3-stoppers actually, we'll go up to Tex and we'll wait and see. But he should be coming in this lap.
Yeah, not much fuel left in the Beamer there, so we'll see. He should be peeling in now. Prezzo right behind. So Stingray's in as well, and all the 3-stoppers coming in. So this is going to be another crucial pit stop for these guys.
Yeah, we're right on board with Stingray because, well, we need to see where he comes out in comparison to Dynamite. Dynamite was already a decent way behind him. But we'll see where Stingray comes out anyway, because we need to see where he comes out, compared to Blocky, even compared to Bodhod, who, again, is on that 2-stop strategy. Because Stingray, I mean, he was running first on track. We definitely know provisionally that is not where he stands in this race.
No, absolutely not. There's definitely more to play for all of these guys. It's going to be a long fuel stop for Stingray, so he'll be sitting here for a while. The one thing that definitely caught my eye was the absolutely huge fuel save from Curving Texas. It was just over 10 litres compared to where Stingray was, and of course BK as well, really utilising the fuel efforts of the Beamer. It's going to be 3 seconds just about in the pits that these boys will save.
Yeah, well, if you do remember, I did mention earlier that the Kennedy Motorsport boys, in that initial first pit stop, they did full fuel the car, and Stingray breached all the pit limits, I believe potentially on the entry, and that really could harm him here.
That's another huge one, isn't it? I mean, 3 seconds. I mean, you compare that to what Tex was saving. He has lost 6 seconds to Curving Texas alone, just in the pit stop.
Yeah, you know what? That could actually catch Tex and Prezzo back up to Stingray with how big that gap is. Which, long run, at least for Tex and Prezzo, could do them massive favours. It won't do any favours to Stingray, who you can see Botthod down the road. Stingray could have worked with Botthod to try and catch up the Blocky.
Yeah, there's still potential for a lot to go on here. I'm not really sure where Blocky's going to end up. I think he's slowly but surely been running some really good times. If he's committed to the 2-stop, those times are really good considering he's on his own. I'm not really sure where Dynamite's going to end up in this one either. I think he's slipped a fair way back considering he's in the 3-stop. He should be a lot further up than where he is right now. 1 second penalty as well for Dynamite, so this is going to be struggle straight for him. But it's just chaos right now, up and down the field. I think the only guys we're really sure of right now is that top 3.
Yeah, as the Stone Tower Curving Texas, a little bit indecisive again on who's going to lead, but it seems like they're nominating the Stone Tower for now. That McLaren does have a bit more of a straight line speed advantage over the BMW, so I'm sure that probably played a factor in them swapping around. Wiz and BK actually going side by side. Wiz has a half-second penalty. BK, knowing that he has to try and catch up to Dynamite to have any chance of salvaging his race, is trying to push forward here. And he's probably hoping he can drag Wiz along with him. Because
I think that's a clever move there.
Wiz, it looks like Wiz is on the 2-stop. And, yeah.
Yeah, I was about to agree. I'd probably say the same thing, to be honest with you. Wiz hasn't really had the best pace so far this race. So I can't understand for the life of me why he's going for an overtake there, especially on the mediums. He's definitely just slowing these boys up. Not sure if there was a bit of contact there. But Wiz, a 4:02 his last lap was his quickest lap of the race.
And it was on the mediums.
Yeah, I don't think he's really got the pace right now to be fighting BK. I think it would be smarter just to sit him behind, maybe watch a couple of the lines, try and find where he can save some time. This Genesis is a very quick car, and Wiz is a very, very capable operator. He's getting a little bit too caught up here.
So I think Wiz might be thinking too much short term, and maybe it's the fact he has the half-second penalty that's just playing into his mind, but really should have been trying to utilise a quick experienced driver like BK to try and make some inroads on Dynamite. But I think now, especially with that penalty in consideration, that could be enough to lose BK perhaps for the day with the pace advantage BK has over him.
The half-second penalty probably would have been means enough to try and get ahead of BK, but the battling itself was just going to slow them both down. And you could see as well, TGT definitely made some inroads on these two boys in the background. He's just been quietly having a race, we'll say. He's not really made too many mistakes from the looks of things. Just keeping on the road, on for a PB at the moment, running the soft stint. You can just see that rear tyre wear as well. These Alphas are really struggling with keeping their rears in check. Be super interesting heading to High Speed Ring next week what they do.
Yeah, the rears on the Alpha and on that Lexus as well, not to the same extent though, really getting lit up. Banana in 14th, Banana on the 3-stop as well. Just struggling to find the pace today, because we know that on a good day he's just as quick as Curving Texas, as the Stone Tower, as Dynamite, as BK, you know, these other guys who are trying to do that same strategy and trying to make it work. But he's a long way behind in comparison to those guys, so clearly something not going right in the 42 team today. Jamo rounding off the field as well, having quite the lonely 3-stop race, as Ridwan again has a nice gap to Jack and Lane.
Important to remember as well that Banana hasn't exactly been in and amongst the community that often, so Banana's still going to be catching up on what's going on, how to really capitalise on the car while you're fuel saving, while you're tyre saving. So I don't expect him to be crazy fast when you come back to his first enduro after such a break off the game, and he's put his best foot forward at Seaside, absolutely. He did a fantastic job, even in his little cameo appearance for Satellite last season at Watkins Glen. So I think we'll really see him warm into it over the next couple of weeks. It's a shame we're missing him next week, but I do expect big things from Banana later in the season.
Yeah, exactly. Enduros historically have never been Banana's strong suit, and I think maybe Banana knew that heading into it as well, that Le Mans probably wasn't going to be the most successful round for him. But we definitely have seen glimpses already this season with the he finished. He had back-to-back fifth place finishes at Seaside, so definitely a very bright indicator. Just a bright glimpse into what he's actually capable of. As on the stream now, we can see the lights are on because the sun's coming down. Can confirm for these guys, it's already nighttime. So unfortunately, the time is a bit out of sync. But Blocky's on his own, Bothod is on his own, and something's happened to Tex. He's dropped a long way off.
Yeah, that was not something we were expecting to see Tex do. He's probably one of the best in terms of a train leader throughout the night. And I did not expect to see that gap of Prezzo to Tex.
A time penalty, perhaps, could have been the catalyst there. Unfortunately, we missed that one. And Dynamite, with a half-second penalty in ninth. BK's in 10th. Wiz has another penalty as well, so he's struggling. I suppose he's struggling to... He's probably doing his all to try and keep it with BK and just struggling to keep it within the white lines. And I think that's too much of a gap as well for BK to be able to catch Dynamite after serving that penalty. So all these three stoppers... I mean, we saw the same thing at Daytona. The three stoppers got split up, and then the two stoppers were able to run away with it, and that could end up being the case here tonight. Perhaps maybe the exception of Stingray, because he has just shown some phenomenal raw pace driving on his own all day.
Oh, he's absolutely flying his Stingray, and I think it's a bit of a shame he doesn't have the fastest lap right now. That 57.2 in clear air, absolutely no toe on lap 8, was nothing short of miraculous. He is absolutely ragging.
Speaking of fastest laps, on his own as well, Ridwan F1.
Now, we speak numbers about how good Ridwan is. I was absolutely blowing smoke up Stingray's trumpet just then. But Ridwan, that lap, a 56.8, are we sure that he didn't have any kind of assistance from Jack earlier in the lap? Because seriously, doing that on a 2-stop is ridiculous.
Yeah, well, they are up to the 6-lap stints, so, there is less emphasis, let's say slightly less emphasis on fuel savings, so they do have the luxury to push a little bit more. But yeah, I mean, I don't have the exact numbers up on me, but we know all the accolades Ridwan has. He has the most drivers' championships in series history. He's tied with 3 Enduro Cups apiece with Bodhod. He'd have the most pole positions, I'm sure. The most race wins, I'm sure. The most podiums, I'm sure. I believe he has something stupid like something stupid. He has a ridiculously high podium percentage when it comes to race starts versus podiums. For a very long time, proved very, very hard to stop. So Ridwan's pace, really a surprise to no one. And I don't want to undermine his ability, but major props has to go to Orphan Drop, as he's just received a half-second penalty. So maybe less props have to go to Orphan Drop. But 50 minutes later, and he's still duking it out with Lane Everingham.
Yeah, look, Jack, it's definitely clear right now how comfortable he's become with that Lexus. I think he was a little bit worried earlier in the season. The Lexus, maybe not the prime pick for this season, but he's really making it work right now compared to that Genesis, which I think everybody had the Genesis on their tip of the tongue going into this season. Lane, of course, going with it for Team Max Speed, but there's a lot of different cars in this season that have some strengths and weaknesses, but... Right, it's just very, very cool to see Jack getting the best out of that Lexus and going up against his old team boss.
Well, yeah, we saw in Season 7 when they were teammates and fighting for a driver's championship, so we know that on his best day, the Jack is just as good, if not maybe even better, than Lane Everingham. But, this version of Lane is a much different beast compared to what we saw 2 seasons ago in Season 7. Blocky wrecks as well with a half-second penalty. Botthod rounding out your top 5. He's having a very, very quiet race. But you know what? Mr. Le Mans. You know, this is really a classic Botthod type of race. You know, just minding his own business. Normally, back in the day, that would have been him in P1. But, you know, it's been a bit of a relearning process lately for Botthod, especially after the struggles he had last season. But very similar to Jack, I'm quite confident Botthod can find his way back towards the front of the grid more consistently.
I don't think Botthod could have landed himself in a much better place, right? He's somewhere he's very comfortable driving. He absolutely loves the environment the Team Max Speed gives him, and Lane is very, very. I'm looking for the right word. Perhaps I wouldn't say nurturing, but he's very caring of how his drivers are performing, and very careful as to how he dishes it out for them.
Yeah, exactly. And lap 13 is it's the pit window for these two stoppers. So Ridwan, Lane, and Orphan Drop. Oh, and Blocky and Botthod as well. But yeah, this top 5, we're expecting them all to come in this lap. I believe that Lane will be going onto the softs. Ridwan and Orphan Drop should be going onto the mediums. So Lane will have an advantage here towards the back end of the stint, or towards the back end of the race, because he'll have that tyre advantage over Ridwan. Be interesting to see the exact fuel numbers here coming into this final stop, as they're both in, and Ridwan has a nice bit of extra fuel in the car, because Lane has had to push harder to try and keep up.
And it does look like as well that
and Jack's staying out.
Yeah, so he's actually banked on, I think that's his 7-lap stint then happening now.
Well,
so he's done well.
This is 2 7-lap stints he's doing. He's going to try to do a 5-lap stint to the end.
It's a very interesting strategy there from Orphan Drop. So he's really just pushing himself to try and get that overcut and go like hell for the final stint.
Well, he has to pit this lap now because he actually hasn't done a single lap on the mediums yet. So if he doesn't pit this lap, he could be meeting a disqualification. Well, he will be meeting a disqualification for failing to meet the tyre requirement on the mediums.
Well, important to remember too, BK, that Le Mans is the first race this season where weather is a factor. So all these guys were warned before the race began that it can just rain at any point here. So they'll be keeping an eye on the weather radar because, of course, if it does rain, then the tyre rule goes out the window. So yeah. Jack maybe sees something that no one else does, as these guys very close there on the exit, and the old team boss gets one up over Ridwan.
Yeah, and if you're Prezzo now, oh man. You know what? Prezzo has had so many seasons of just pulling over for Ridwan, letting him through. This is Prezzo's chance to have a fight with him.
It 100% is. I think they're at different stages of their race. I think Prezzo's just trying to push like hell. Ridwan may be a little bit cautious. The guys around him, I beg your pardon. He's a fair bit ahead of Lane now, and I think Lane's his closest competitor. I'm just really confused about what Orphan Drop's planning here. There must be something that he knows that we don't.
Yeah, I mean, Orphan Drop's gone for the overcut here, which has I think it's high risk, high reward, because if he can have a strong enough in-lap, then maybe he can break away from Ridwan and Lane. The problem is, well, Lane hasn't, but Ridwan has rejoined in Prezzo's tow. So Ridwan should have a very, very strong outlap here, which isn't going to do Jack any favours if he's going to try and overcut these guys.
Yeah, it's all shaping up now, isn't it? I mean, there's not too long to go in this race, just under a quarter of it to go. And it's all happening. I'm really excited to see. I still think I'm putting my money on that trio of Orphan Drop, Ridwan and Lane to come up in the top 3. But there's a couple question marks over Orphan Drop now. I'm really concerned by this strategy call that he's made. He really needs to be committed to this now if he's going to make this work.
Well, yeah, This is the most important lap of his entire race, because he has willingly abandoned the tow that's helped him maintain this competitiveness throughout the race. Dynamite's up to 6th now, actually. He's overtaken Tex. BK's in 8th. So Blocky's rejoined in 9th. And Bothod's back at 11th, the half-second penalty. Banana's in 10th. Then Jamo in 12th. Wizzy to 13th, who is indicating to somebody that he's turning left. We're not sure who. TGT's in 13th, and actually, we've lost a runner because that's Botthod done. Technical issues, and the 13 car is done for the night. Has not met the 75% requirement, So that 13 car will not be scoring any points.
So Mr. Lamont drops out. That's a huge loss there for Team Max Speed.
Yeah, can confirm. He did confirm this with me afterwards that someone inside his house disconnected the router. So
You are joking.
So it's quite unfortunate there for Bodhod. We will track on board with Orphan Drop as he is coming through the last few corners now. About to come in and make his final stop for the medium compound. It'll be very, very crucial to see where he rejoins.
I want to be watching this really closely. I think he's absolutely forfeited his way to the slipstream, so he's going to be probably back with Dynamite. And even then, Dynamite might have jumped him. I'm not really sure what the gap between Lane and Dynamite is right now. If we go back
I think it might have been too big.
Yeah, it could be around that point because he's going to be nowhere near Lane. I think he's going to be well behind Lane. So this just could be very, very interesting for Jack. Of course, he's going to be absolutely rapid on those fresh softs. But as a strategy call, I am questioning his strategy team right now.
Yeah, exactly. And why was the strategy different to Ridwan's? We'll never know. As the tyres are getting changed, this is the most crucial pit stop that Jack has had in a very, very long time. A race win on the line in this one pit stop.
And this is just going to feel like an eternity for Jack. This is painful. Stingray, Perezzo, Ridwan, Lane, all past pit entry. This is going to be really close on exit here as Dynamite actually peels in. So he's going to be slotting into 5th place, I dare say.
So yeah, Jack has re-emerged in 5th.
That's the soft tyre. BK, that's the soft tyre he's put on.
It is. So either an absolute strategy blunder or a stroke of genius. We're yet to see, but unless it rains, Jack has thrown everything away, and at this rate, he will be disqualified from this race for not using the medium tyre.
I cannot, but no, there is absolutely no way that he has seen something that we haven't. There's got to be, unless there is the biggest rainstorm in the history of France on the way to Le Mans, I cannot understand for the life of me why that's happened. There's got to be some sort of technical issue.
Everyone has a 1 second penalty as well. Sorry to cut you off. That could bring Lane back into things. So we predicted.
We've lost our main commentator for a second there after he cruelly cut me off. So that's karma in a nutshell. But Ridwan there, yes, in 3rd place with a full second penalty. And this is going to be Lane right back into it, if not maybe past him.
Sorry, I was getting my dinner.
It's a very, very interesting time for dinner, if I do say so myself.
It wasn't my call.
Treat yourself, King.
It wasn't my call, but yeah, anyway. We predicted Ridwan, Lane and Jack to be the top 3. All of a sudden now, I think Stingray might be the favourite for 3rd, depending on where, he comes out in comparison to Blocky. As, yeah, this 1 second penalty Ridwan has, this has brought Lane back in the game.
It's just unexpected, right? It's absolutely flipped on its head. I thought this was strange when Jack stayed out that extra lap. To see him go to softs now, I mean, we can basically count him out. And again, unless we see a massive rainstorm, which I'm not going to count out, there is still a long way to go in this race. And it's very, very possible that the heavens open up. But suddenly, your top 2 runners look to be clearly Ridwan and Lane is all over him now. Look at him here pulling out of the slipstream.
Yeah, Lane does not want to wait for Ridwan to serve the pen, because if Lane's ahead of Ridwan, when Ridwan serves a penalty, that is more of a gap that Ridwan is going to fall behind, because we're at the stage of the race now, Viper, where, any teamwork, it can be thrown out the window, because these guys, it is a straight-up race to the end. There's no more pit stops. There's, not as much, tyre management, fuel management. It is a straight-up race. And that 1 second time penalty is going to drop Ridwan out of Lane's toe. So that overtake there could be the move that wins Lane this race.
And you're absolutely seeing what I'm seeing right now. And the important thing is that Perezzo is in P2. And if Lane catches up to him after this 1 second penalty, then that could be game over for Ridwan. So this is going to be music. Look at this. So Lane, massive gap now back to Ridwan. He's going to have to push so hard in that Lexus to try and catch the Genesis. And all Prezzo needs to do, sorry, not Prezzo, all Lane needs to do is cruise on up to Prezzo, and he's going to be getting the benefit of a bit of tow.
Yeah, well, it is lap 15, and this is the cutoff really for the lap 14/15. That was the pit window for the three stoppers, so we're expecting Stingray and the Stone Tail in now, so Lane should be inheriting the lead. Haven't paid too much attention. Actually, no, they started on the mediums, so they'll be finishing on the softs as well. Stingray will be on a massive charge in third place. As the Stone Tail follows him in, Lane Everingham is going to retake the lead, and he has a nice gap over Ridwan, doesn't he?
And look at that gap as well, the one I'm looking at right now. So Stingray hasn't even begun his refueling, and Lane sweeping around the first corner into the chicane. And I think if you need any reference at all, if that three stop has worked, Stingray has put in an absolutely incredible stint of his own. And look at that, he's not even in the pits yet. I don't think the three stops worked.
Yes, he is the man of the hour. Who is going to rejoin in third? Is it going to be Stingray or is it going to be Blocky? Look, it is going to be Blocky. He's already past pit exit. So Blocky, he started second, has struggled for most of the day, but he's found his groove at the right time, and he could find his way finishing on the podium still.
I think that kind of, it absolutely plays testament to everything we were speaking about at the start of this race. Strategy is king here. If you find yourself on the wrong strat, or if you're making too many mistakes, you are absolutely going to be finding yourself out of this race. I mean, where's Curving right now? Curving Texas was looking very, very good for a great result. Found himself with too many mistakes and 7th place right now. Well,
it's actually 6th because we need to take Jack out of the standing. So yeah, P6 after running in P2 on track for most of the day. P1, P2.
So not to confuse myself, I will leave that to the steward. So I'm going to call it P7 for Tex right now, just to not throw myself out of order.
Yeah, well, it is P7. The disqualification will be in effect as soon as Jack crosses the line.
It will be, and it'll be a steward's decision, of course, to make sure he has breached the rule, which at the moment we are sure, unless the wet tyres go on that car. But yeah, it's just... the two stoppers have absolutely ran away with this, and Stingray probably the only person that can make something of it of the three.
Yeah, well, we'll see when he gets around the corner how close he is to Blocky. It is a sizable gap, actually. You can see it on the map. About half of this straight is the gap that Blocky has over Stingray. I mean, we know Stingray's quick. On his own, fastest guy on track, because that 56.6 in Clean Air definitely proves that is the case. But I'm not sure if in 3.5 laps he can catch that gap to Blocky. So Blocky could be on for a podium here.
Blocky on mediums, Stingray will be absolutely going hammer and tongs on softs. I'm going to go out on a guess and say that there's probably about 8 seconds between them, maybe 10, so there or thereabouts. So in the remaining laps of this race, he's probably going to have to catch somewhere in the region of 2.5 seconds a lap. And honestly, looking at the time Stingray's done, I would not count him out from that. I think he has got that in him. And I'm pretty confident Stingray can salvage maybe a podium from here.
Yeah, and I mean, you look, the man who's not that far behind me, the Stone Towel, if he can... I mean, we've seen the pace he's been able to pull today as well. His fastest lap's only 3 tenths behind Stingray's. If he can try his best to replicate Stingray's pace, maybe he could pass Blocky too, and seal a 3-4 for the reigning team's champions, FP Racing, which would be a phenomenal result.
Tell you what, BK, what I absolutely love about this race so far is that every driver in the top 5 right now has done something differently, and they've done it so well, and that's the reason they're in a good spot right now. Lane, of course, has not put a foot wrong. He has been really clever about his car positioning, about what his strategy is doing. Everything he's doing right now, Lane, is the drive of a reigning champion, and look at the gap behind him. He's been incredibly good. Ridwan as well, stepping into an unfamiliar car. He has not driven this Lexus at all, and he is absolutely performing at the level we would expect him. A couple minor mistakes probably cost him being on the back of Lane, but he has nailed this 2-stop. And then orphan drop, Jackie Prez. We're just so confused with what's gone wrong. He's actually, look at that, he's copped some front right damage there, so he's met the wall at some stage on this lap. Not sure where that's happened. Somewhere in the Porsche curves, you can only assume. But again, unless the biggest storm in France comes through, I cannot understand what he's done here. Again, there must have been some sort of major technical difficulties. And then 4th and 5th, Blocky. We did not see Blocky at all this race, did we, BK?
No, after the poor start, he just fell backwards and wasn't involved with any of the slipstream trains towards the front. he really just, had the superior strategy. He's raced his own race, and he could be rewarded here with a podium, which would be his first for Season 9. And then prying Stingray. The wrong strategy, yes, but boy, has he been fast, and has he been fun to watch.
Oh, I really feel for Stingray right now, because I look at his drive right now and I see myself at Daytona last season. This is absolutely to a T what was happening. Stingray, without a doubt, the quickest car on track so far. He has been flying in that McLaren, but picking the wrong strategy, there is no amount of pace that can save your race.
Yeah, and I mean, one thing that just came to my mind as well, he had to cop that 3-second time penalty for pit breaches as well after his second pit stop, so that alone has possibly cost him a position to Blocky here, because without that penalty, he's probably right behind Blocky now, if not in front of him. Because that gap currently... Oh, actually, Blocky has a penalty. But that gap right now, you look at the times, it's about 11 seconds.
Yeah, okay, so it is coming down. Look, I still wouldn't put it past Stingray. Again, if you can be sitting in the low 57s at least, Blocky's not going to have a lot of outright pace on that medium tyre. It's not like it's a godsend. He's not going to be lapping. There you go, so low 4-minute lap times so far for Blocky Rex. I don't think he's got much of the way in a 59 in it. So that's nearabouts to 3 seconds per lap for Stingray. He can absolutely do this.
Yeah, I think if anyone can do it on this grid, it would be Stingray. The Stone Towel... He's not that far behind. He is out of a slipstream toe, but could maybe latch onto the back of Stingray, but it'd have to be, without a doubt, the best driving he's ever done. Not sure if he's up for it tonight, especially with the white-hot form that Stingray's been on. Curving Texas up into 7th. Dynamite saving his medium stint towards the end in 8th. BKXI in 9th. Just trying to... He really has been an all-factor for the last 10 laps or so, hasn't he? Ever since he got that 1-second time penalty, Sign still delivered game over, but Wisdom Banana Cake Pie battling out for the last place in the top 10.
Yeah, it's interesting to see, especially when it came to both BK and Tex. Those two cars had so much pace this race, and I think they definitely had more in them compared to 7th and 9th, but it's just not gone their way for one reason or another. I think the Kennedy Motorsport boys will be left licking their wounds a little bit in the end of this race.
Yeah, they looked so strong at Dragon Trail. They finished 3rd, 4th, and 5th in that sprint race, which was considered around the grid, around the community. That 3-4-5, probably the best result any team can get this season that doesn't have Stingray or Lane in it. So clearly that they're already performing at a high level, but today, very much not the case for the current team's championship leaders.
Yeah, and very interesting to think about as well. There's going to be a bit of a shake-up. Of course, only round 2, so we've jumped straight into the Enduro, but there will be a bit of a shake-up in terms of drivers and teams championships at the back end of this one.
Yeah, TGT as well in 12th there, Jamo in 13th, Savage Duck right behind Jamo actually, so at least these guys at the back, at least, slight mistake there from Savage Duck, but I was about to say, historically in these Enduros, the guys at the back normally end up driving on their own, and it's a bit of an uneventful one. At least there's some closer competition back there for them, so they're not feeling as isolated. But someone who's quite isolated, I'm sure he is very happy with that, it's Lane Everingham, who currently boasts a 12-second gap over Ridwan. So Ridwan on the mediums as well. He saved his medium stint to the end. It's game over, isn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty easy to say. Look, it's never over until the fat lady sings or the checkered flag drops, so I wouldn't write out anything happening towards the end of this race. I don't think we'll see any tyre or fuel dramas for Lane, but again, there is... I almost think Jack was onto something with that soft stint. I'm not going to say that he's... look, he does have a 1.5 second penalty, so maybe I shouldn't praise him too much. But, look, I definitely wouldn't put it past the Polyphony gods to give him a bit of a Hail Mary here. He had a great race, and I would really hate to see this go to waste because of... something I can't expect. Like, it must have been a technical difficulty from Jack to throw it away like that.
Yeah, I can confirm as well that Jack did say, as this race was going on, it really was the classic. He was, accelerating into the pits, and he went for an upshift at the same time the tyre selection screen came up. So when it was meant to upshift, he accidentally selected the soft compound again. So it's just, unfortunately, a bit of bit of a misinput, and it's gonna cost him a third place finish, and it's gonna cost Team a lot of points.
It could, absolutely. And look, there's only one lap to go after this one, so we will be keeping an eye on the weather radar. We have seen it before, the weather playing a little bit of havoc on this field, but it is looking less and less likely as time goes on. And Jack, I think, will just be feeling a little bit sheepish if nothing happens in the next couple of minutes. But yeah, just really interesting as well, this gap between Blocky and Stingray coming down ever so slightly. And look at him there, you can see the tail lights of that 4C. This is going to be the real incentive that Stingray needs. And was that a penalty for Blocky?
Yeah, he has a 1 second time penalty. He has picked it up for quite a while. Was just waiting for the right time to jump in and save that one. Or from dropping the 1.5. But again, it's not raining. So, non-factor. He's out of this race. So, Blocky, in this battle for third, he's really opening the door for Stingray. Maybe Prezzo too.
Yeah, it could all happen. As long as Prezzo keeps this clean, he has had some great pace. He's just a little bit far back to be picking up any kind of toe off Stingray. But the second these two start battling, because you can guarantee that Blocky's not going to make it easy, it is really going to open up here for Prezzo. So 1 lap to go after they come through this final couple of sections here. And these boys need to be very, very careful. Just to consolidate, there's a lot of points on offer when they come through the Enduro rounds. So there's a lot to play for, especially for Satellite, who did not have the best of rounds at Dragon Trail.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, we know Blocky and Stingray, very good friends off the track, but on the track, you know what it's like between good mates? You always want to one-up the other. And Blocky's run wide!
Oh, Blocky. Oh, that's such a bad mistake to be making. He's about to serve that penalty on the exit of Arnage. And the rain is here! Oh my god!
The rain has hit! If it rains enough, Jack is in the clear.
Oh, it was just a little burst. You could see it in the bottom left, so the track is slowly but surely getting wetter.
And Stingray's going for a move. BK. It looks like it is pissing down here.
Oh, it is opening up.
Stingray's passed. We have to go. Lane's bringing it in.
Oh, this is huge.
Lane's coming into the pits. God. Is Ridwan going to try risk it on the mediums to try win it all? He's not willing to. Jack probably has to avoid a disqualification. At least chuck on the insters to avoid the disqualification. As it really is starting to bucket down here. And maybe Present Engineering did have access to the weather radar early. Maybe they knew that this rain was coming. Who knows? But it is absolutely pissing down. Stingray coming into the pits now. Then there's Blocky and Prezzo. So that's going to be a three-way battle, 4p4, between those guys. Tex and Dynamite. Yeah, these guys are stranded. Tex sliding off the track.
Oh, no. Oh, that is chaos there for these boys. It's just a case of
you need to be... look how wet it is. Dynamite's around.
You got no chance. Absolutely no chance. This is stupid.
Tex can barely get it going himself, and BK can barely get the car going. Tex and Dynamite can't keep it straight. Intermediates on the 1 car, on the 96. Orphan drop. He's on the inters. He's on suitable racing tyres this time, so he's in third. He could actually end up... Well, Jack's back in the race. He won't get disqualified. So Jack right now could salvage his second podium of the season. There's Stingray in fourth, Blocky in fifth, Prezzo in sixth. This battle for fourth is going to be absolutely mental. And look at how wet it's getting. I think these guys might be on the wrong tyres. As Stingray overshoots the corner, Blocky overshoots the corner. I think these guys maybe should have put on wets.
I can't even fathom what's going on. If you go back right now into the Porsche curves, anyone outside the top 10 right now is having a... There's a car rotating before Porsche curves right now. Right now, he's just had a full 360. It was Jamo. Jamo who's gone for an absolute ride, just trying to keep this thing in a straight line because he's on softs. I feel for every single one of these guys out there right now. Look at that. That is so sideways. So sideways. Banana's knocked over the MMA barrier. So Banana has found himself someone who absolutely will not sponsor him. And it's chaos. It is absolute chaos out here.
Kennedy Motorsport losing out on a potential MMA sponsorship as...
And someone else is backwards. Further on. Go backwards.
Wiz!
Yep, Wiz. Wiz is back. There's another one as well. I think Jamo as well lost it.
Sneaking on past. Dynamite and Tex opting for the wets. Blocky now opting to pass Prezzo. Stingray is so far in the lead. So something's clearly happened to these guys because... I mean, Blocky's tried to go down the inside. It hasn't worked because these guys are all on the wrong tyre. It's rained out way too much. These guys couldn't have predicted this. The top 6, they're all on the wrong tyre compound. I mean, Dynamite is about a minute behind Prezzo in 6th. But could it rain enough to the point where maybe these guys can't get around quick enough?
And did Dynamite go to the heavy wet? Is that what we're being told
Dynamite
here?
downwards are all going to go onto the wets. So Dynamite and Tex and BK, they've gotten the tyre choice right, but they spun around so much just trying to keep the car straight that I think it's going to cost them.
That is crazy.
Oh, Red One! Oh no! He has saved it. It really looked like he was shooting off there, but we've never seen the full wets be used in the Project 1 event until now. It has absolutely saved all for drop today, and you can see the 3 sets of headlights in the background. We've only seen, previously, I mean, Nürburgring last season, 1 lap of wet weather driving. Tonight here at Le Mans, 1 lap of wet weather driving. We don't see it very often here in P1, do we? As someone is still in the Porsche curves, Savage Duck's still stuck on the softs.
Oh, I'm just not surprised. If you caught out at the wrong point, you've just got
Yeah,
absolutely
Wiz is
no
coming
chance.
out, and I just want to point this out because I think it's funny. Banana did not buy into Zorwets.
Oh, Jesus.
So he was running in 10th. He has absolutely cost himself. TGT, he could be on for a first ever top 10 finish here in Project 1 in only his 3rd race.
Oh, it is just crazy. And the biggest thing of this is Jack Presland has absolutely bluffed everybody. And he's going to come out with a podium. I think that is absolutely balls to the wall brilliance. I mean, he can't steer the Lexus right now. It is so wet.
Actually, no, he's not even accelerating.
He's
He's slowing down.
So
He's slowing. Something's happening here to... we can confirm, actually, there's technical difficulties with his wheel switching off.
What's going on here?
So he's...
Has he got it back? So I think he's back to full
he's back
throttle.
now.
But
He
look
is
at this,
back now.
Stingray's all over him.
Yeah, and unfortunately, Lane Everium's coming into the final sector, so we're going to have to cut to Lane crossing the line. So Lane Everium, from 9th on the grid, he is your driver of the day, and he has won the 250 kilometres of Le Mans.
No, he's going to win it. Get off him. There's so much going on for the podium right now. Stingray's gone through to P3.
Oh, he's in the wall!
And he's in the wall!
And
look at it side by side!
Side by side!
Oh, I can't watch this.
Stingray has a 1 second penalty as well. He's going to have to somehow gap 1 second to Jack in the final sector.
Oh, I thought he was going to throw it in there. Just keep it on the track, son.
Red One's brought it home in 2nd. You can see he's 3rd through 6th. They are so close. If Jack and Stingray were to collide, we could see Blocky sneak home 3rd.
Oh, collide, please. No, I mean, don't.
Stingray's lost the back end. He's held it, though.
Oh, is there a second in this? This is so close. Look at him. He's had a
There
mega
might be
final
a
sector.
second in it. Stingray's just absolutely sent it. He crosses the line.
Oh, he's definitely got a second there. He's definitely got a second there.
Third. Blocky in 5th.
Oh my
Prezzo in
God.
6th. And Dynamite is so far behind because he got stranded on the softs. And look, Tex is nowhere near. They were right next to each other.
That is absolute chaos, and Dynamite can hardly keep it on the track, even in the wet tyre. I cannot believe, BK, how that ended.
Yeah, for the life of me, cannot believe it. I just cannot believe what we're seeing. I mean, Stingray finished 47 seconds behind the race lead. Dynamite right now, as he crosses the line, is a minute 48 behind the lead. And we know normally on pace, Dynamite is not that slow. That is just how much... Look at the lap time on lap 18, a 4-minute 52. He spent almost an extra minute just sliding around because he was on the wrong compounded tyre. Dynamite is going to bring it home in 7th, barely. Tex brings it home in 8th. Boy, oh boy. The race isn't even over yet. But this is the most chaotic finish we've ever seen to a Project 1 race.
I think that was wild. And there's still guys losing traction. There's still guys throwing it sideways. Banana's somewhere back in Belgium spinning at every single corner, just without that the wet tyre. I'm lost for words.
Yeah.
That was absolutely crazy.
Well, you know what? Wiz is struggling as well on those wets. Banana, very disappointing. Savage Duck has finished a lap down because of how much he was struggling on those soft compounded tyres. But TGT Viper, in his third race in Project 1, brings home a top 10 in these extremely challenging conditions. So a very impressive drive there from the rookie.
That's super composed. He's definitely passed a couple guys there that you expect to be really on it in these conditions. But TGT, just again, some heads-up driving and making sure that he's there when he needs to be.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And Wiz is going to cross the line in 11th. The 3-minute post-race timer is actually going to elapse right now. So Jabba and Banana Cake Pie won't make it to the end, but they are classified for 12th and 13th. Savage Duck in 14th. Bodhod doesn't finish the race. And the Stone Towel actually takes home fastest lap points. And Viper, what a finish. I cannot believe it.
Well, it's just crazy, right? I mean, I'm pretty lost for words. We've had some really, really fun endings to P1 races before. Every single time we see weather, I feel like we have a really, really good race. And that was no different, right? I think absolute props to Lane. That was such a sterling drive from the Team Max Speed owner. And to Ridwan as well, and to Jack, and to Stingray. Look, I really feel for Jack to have that technical difficulty, not once, but twice. I could have been chaos for him. But then Blocky as well, you know, to have the drive that he had. Absolutely didn't put a foot wrong. Didn't really have the pace, I suppose, in the race. Came from nowhere to pick up a P5. And all those guys in the top 10 just did a mega effort in the end to keep it on the track. And condolences in particular to Banana. Not having the wet tyres is... that's a massive shame. But look, an awesome race nonetheless. And super fun to be a part of.
Yeah, Banana unfortunately did throw away a potential top 10 finish as he was battling Wiz on track. And then, had to do that last lap on the soft compound tyres when it was absolutely howling down with rain. And as well, Lane Everingham P1 started from 9th. Ridwan starting from 6th as well. You'd normally expect these guys to lock out a front row, but they really had to stick, just really get their elbows out, stick it in deep, play a long game, and it paid off in the end. I'll quickly run through your standings for you now. Top 5 in the drivers, it's Lane Everingham. 50 points clear of prying Stingray in second. Orphan Drop moves up into third. Curving Texas drops down to fourth. He was third last week. The Stone Towel moves up into fifth. The Enduro Cup standings, Viper, we just saw them the exact same as the race results. So it's Lane from Ridwan, who you'd imagine wouldn't be here for the next 3 Enduros. So it's really Lane leading, Stingray leading Orphan Drop, and then Blocky Rex there, rounding out your top 5. FP Racing have taken the team's championship lead here from Kennedy Motorsport after their poor race. Preslin Engineering up into third after the strong 2-4 finish from Ridwan and Orphan Drop. Team Max Speed dropping down to fourth, unfortunately suffering the effects of Bodhod not making it to the line, and Satellite Racing still sitting there in fifth, but definitely bridging that gap.
Yeah, and all the teams have really closed up. I mean, and again, I know we're only 2 rounds in, but that's a really cool start to the season. I don't think there's really anyone that's stretched their legs as a favourite right now in terms of teams champs. I think we've got a really good season on our hands.
I mean, right now in the Drivers' Championship, it is looking like it could be Lane versus Stingray, but, with the pace that Jack's shown today, or just the overall pace, that we know that, Tex can show off, and Prezzo had lots of glimpses of brilliance last season too, and, Blocky in the past has shown that he's a very credible driver. Anything can happen, really, in Project 1 eSports, and it'll be very interesting to find out. And Viper, next week, we're going to uncharted territories because we do have a little bit to unpack here, because there are some format changes that we need we'll make clear on the stream. But we're going to the high speed ring next week, which is the first time we're going there, and it'll be the first time that we use the all new, this version 2 of the Super Sprint, because there are no mandatory pit stops now in these Super Sprint races.
So it's a big change, that's for sure, and I think the real heads-up strategists in and out of the field are going to have an absolute ball trying to figure out what's going to be the quickest way for their teams to get about this one. 16 laps we're expecting, and no tyre minimum, so of course the first place you go to is just figuring out whether the softs or the mediums are going to be the go-to. It's going to be a really interesting race just to see what these teams commit to.
Yeah, exactly, but you know what, Viper? That is what we're going to find out next week. And that's all for this week. So, I've been BKXI, that's been Viper Z, and it might be us, it might not be us. But we'll see you next time anyway for the High Speed Ring Super Sprint. Thank you, everyone. And good night.
Thank you all. It will be me, and it will be live.
Oh, there you go. So, Viper will see you all next week. Thank you all, and good night.